Like, so she was assigning all the negative attributes to the blackness, and then when they asked her, which doll more looks like you, she pointed to the black doll. So she was calling herself, in that sense, like, you know, maybe indirectly, mean and bad and misbehaved and all of these negative attributes. And I think that a lot of times black people can do that. I would call you a pretty self-hating black man, to be honest. Because, for example, you make statements like...
You call me that?
Yes, for sure.
Oh, good. You call me that?
Yes.
What do you call me?
A pretty self-hating black man.
What the...
Yes, guys, it's another one. I came across this very interesting interview between Fanatic and Jesse Lee Peterson. Here, Fanatic accused Jesse, as you can see in the intro, accused Jesse of self-hate. But Jesse wasn't having it. And you know what? Jesse made Fanatic regret his words in the end. Guys, if you've not subscribed to the channel, what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to get more videos like this. So without further ado, let's dive in.
I have with me today Fanatic. And Fanatic is a Twitch streamer and musical artist. Thank you for coming, Fanatic.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
So does Fanatic mean that you're crazy?
No. The name started, it was a nod to this guy named Combo Fiend, but long story short, I was really into combos. I used to be a professional fighting game player, and I was really into combos, and so my name was really Combo Fanatic.
Oh.
I just kind of shortened it down to Fanatic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. Are you a Christian?
Yes.
You're a liberal.
No.
Are you a liberal?
No.
Are you a conservative?
I don't consider myself a conservative either.
And so what are you?
Well, oh man, I guess it gets a little bit more complicated than just that dichotomy. I would say I'm a conservative progressive.
What does that mean?
It means that I was raised with really socially conservative values, and I think those things probably have a really strong impact on like my outlook on life and my decision making. However, I recognize that economically there's plenty of reason for progressive values in order to offset some of the damages caused by the best system in the world, which is capitalism.
Really? What are socially conservative values?
Well, I believe very much in traditional marriage. I believe in not having children out of wedlock. I definitely believe in like just strong family units and how absolutely important that is and integral that is into rearing life, into community in general. I guess those things are, I would say, pretty conservative values.
Do you support LGBTQ stuff?
In various ways, sure.
Is that wrong or right?
Well, how do you mean?
To be a LGBTQ person, is that wrong or right in that lifestyle?
So I would say spiritually, I would say that sort of lifestyle is probably not consistent with like biblical teaching. So I would say it's wrong in that regard. However, I would also recognize that I don't have the authority to judge and condemn other people for the way that they choose to live. And I recognize that other people are not going to be Christian, so I allow them to live, well, not really my allowance. I tolerate, or whatever word you would like to use, their lifestyles and allow them to live the way that they want to, and respect their decisions while recognizing that they're not Christians, or at least I would imagine, I think being like that sort of lifestyle and those sort of actions would be inconsistent with like biblical teaching.
But you see it as being wrong?
For myself, I absolutely would see it as wrong.
Even though they're doing it, do you see it as being wrong for them too?
For sure. I would say it's wrong, but but I also recognize that if they don't believe in God and don't submit to Christianity and the Bible as their authority, then they're probably going to live in an entirely different way. That's up to them. I believe there's a truth, and I think the Bible is an objective truth. But I recognize I don't have the ability to push that on to other people.
You said that you're a conservative,
progressive.
Progressive, and what is progressive about you?
Well, I very much believe in things like reparations. I think that's like a great idea for various problems. I believe that we probably need expansion of various social safety nets and things like that in order to shore up some of the problems that happen from late-stage capitalism.
When you say we, who are you talking about?
People in general, like society.
So all people should get reparations?
I would say people for which it's appropriate.
All people?
I don't think all people are required.
Well, who are you referring to that should get reparations?
Well, okay, so I think Native Americans need specific reparations of some kinds. They've
Why?
already gotten it.
Why do they need it?
Because of some of the previous damages that have been done to them.
What was done to them that would require that they need reparations?
Oh man, unfortunately, I being honest, I'm not strong enough on Native American history to be able to answer that like coherently.
You know why? Because they don't need it.
Okay, you
All
know
they're
what?
going to do is buy some more pot with it.
Jeez. Okay. I don't have
You know
that
they
answer. That's not
love
my
to
area of
smoke
study.
Peyote, right?
I believe it. I believe
pot.
that's probably a portion of their culture.
That's the pot we're smoking today. Well, I'm not smoking, but people smoke.
Yeah, white Americans smoke it too nowadays.
Yeah, they smoke the
Equal
peyote.
rates.
Do you believe in internal racism?
Oh, absolutely.
Internalized racism?
Absolutely.
Because I read that in 2020 you put out a video on internalized racism.
Sure, it was a
and
very painful
self-hatred.
experience. Yes.
What is internalized racism?
Well, in my case, and I think it can vary from person to person, in my case, internalized racism kind of demonstrated itself in the sense that I had all of these negative stereotypes, specifically about black people, that I realized it gave me this sort of mentality that I needed to impress white people. So then in certain circles, I would change my way of speaking. I would carry myself in specific ways so as to distance myself from what I considered to be blackness. And I realized that my doing that was based on a lot of these misconceptions and negative stereotypes of black people. And I think that realizing that was really painful for me because it made me realize there was a part of myself that I was disliking.
And so when you be around white people, you will act white?
Sure. I would maybe
Is that
just
what you
change
mean
my
by?
Yeah, sure. I would change my diction, change my interests, and kind of chameleon-like fit in with white people while doing everything to distance myself from blackness.
And then when you're around black people, you act black?
Sure. I think it's called code switching.
What way will you become black?
I think I changed my diction quite a bit. I think my musical choices would be different. I like all genres of music except for like pretty much heavy metal. But like, for example, I like country music. I wouldn't listen to country music around black people. I wouldn't like volunteer that I like country music back in the day. Just those kinds of things where it was just anything culturally black, I would intentionally just kind of distance myself from it.
Really? And what made you do that?
I don't know. I was raised in a pretty white society, where I grew up, and I felt like I had experienced a decent amount of racism. And I think part of my response to avoid conflict was to just try to distance myself from blackness.
Oh, I see. And today, are you acting white or black right now?
I'm acting like myself.
But you sound white.
I don't think I sound white
No,
at
you
all.
speak pretty white.
I think I
You
speak
speak all
intelligently.
correctly and intelligent.
Do you not think black people can speak intelligently?
No.
Well, what am I?
But I'm
Do you think
trying
I'm
to
a black
figure out
person?
now, are you being white with me or are you being black with me?
Oh, I speak like myself. So here's what
But
it
you
is.
sound white.
Okay, I disagree with that. I think black people can speak rather intelligently.
Where are they?
Right here in front of you.
No, other than you.
My family, all of them.
Oh, they act white.
I don't think they act white. I think they speak intelligently. I'd say this. So my mother, very college-educated woman, she really instilled very much. And her father, who wasn't college-educated, were really, really big on just speaking properly. And I think we grew up with this as like a, part of just something that was necessary. We got chastised by other children for speaking white.
Other black children.
Other black children, for sure. And I think those sorts of things, it created some sort of distance. So in the sense that you start feeling like a loss of a sense of belonging because certain people are chastising you for speaking differently than they do.
Especially being kids and growing up like that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you start internalizing a bunch of those things and you start feeling like, man, maybe I'm not black enough or maybe and all of those kinds of things.
So what is self-hatred?
I would think self-hatred is, again, oh my gosh, I think one of the easiest way of exemplifying it, there was this doll test that happened with these young children where they were doing I think from 4 to 6 to 7 years old. And they had them answering questions about attributes of dolls, white and black. And the kids are able to immediately, when they ask them about negative attributes, they assign those to the black dolls. But the thing that was the most harmful about one of those things I saw was there was a black kid, she was doing the doll test, and she said, so she was assigning all the negative attributes to the blackness, and then when they asked her which doll more looks like you, She pointed to the black doll. So she was calling herself in that sense, like, maybe indirectly, mean and bad and misbehaved and all of these negative attributes. And I think that a lot of times black people can do that. I would call you a pretty self-hating black man, to be honest. Because, for example, you make statements
You
like...
call me that?
Yes, for sure.
Oh, good. You call me that?
Yes.
What do you call me?
A pretty self-hating black man.
What the?
Yeah, listen.
And why?
It's not to be offensive.
No,
I think it's just
be offensive.
Okay.
George Floyd, you know that unemployed drug addict
Oh, wow.
with
Sure.
the criminal record?
Sure.
Were you surprised when the blacks blamed the cop rather than blaming the unemployed drug addict for his death? Were you surprised when the blacks did that?
Do you believe... No, I don't see a problem with it. I'm answering your question first. Okay.
Yeah, were you surprised when
Wait, hold
the
on really
blacks
quickly.
pretended that it was the cops' problem instead of, the cops' fault that George Floyd is dead, when George Floyd was an unemployed drug addict with a criminal record?
So do you
Were
think...
you surprised at the blacks' reaction to that?
Well, do you think that an unemployed drug addict, do you think that because he was unemployed and addicted to drugs, which I'm not even sure he was addicted to drugs, but whatever, but do you think because he was unemployed, and let's assume addicted to drugs, that somehow in and of itself resulted in the compression on his neck that denied his brain
You
oxygen?
didn't answer my question.
I am answering it.
No, I asked you a question. I asked you, were you surprised at the reaction of the blacks when the unemployed drug addict with the criminal record...
Jeez. Man, you really hate yourself in some ways, but it's sure. So no, I'm not surprised.
Were you surprised that the blacks blamed the cop and not the addict?
I am not surprised that the cops blame, that the black people, or not just black people, obviously a jury of his peers found out who were not black. Obviously coroners were not black in this scenario. I'm not surprised that the vast majority of sane people were able to recognize that the suppression on his neck resulted in a lack of oxygen, which ultimately caused his death. Both an independent coroner and the other coroner both found this to be true. So no, I would not be surprised that people who had access to the actual information released by the coroner were able to identify that this cop's action by putting his knee on his neck for that amount of time resulted in his death. So no, that's not surprising at all.
You're saying, no, Jesse, I'm not surprised at the blacks blaming the cops rather than the unemployed drug addict with the record, with criminal record.
If that's what you took from that. But let me ask you this. Do you blame the coroner?
I want to be clear. You're not
I know. I answered the question very directly.
Are you saying yes? No, Jess, I'm not surprised at the reaction of the blacks.
I think I answered it with some additional information.
But I didn't hear yes or no.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'll say it one more time. Let me fully answer it. No, I'm not surprised.
Oh, okay.
Hold on. No, I'm not surprised.
No,
I got you. No, I'm not surprised, especially considering the information from the coroner clearly demonstrated that the suppression on his neck was caused by the officer, which resulted in his death. Do you think that a person being unemployed and and addicted to drugs would somehow result in compression in their neck, denying their brain oxygen?
I think that he gets what he deserved. He doesn't care about his own life. If he had cared about his own life, he would not have been a drug addict and a criminal record.
So do you believe because...
Am I right about that?
I totally agree.
First of all,
yes, I do agree. I think that a person who values their life would probably not be addicted to drugs or have criminal records.
And secondly,
but would you
his
say...
knee wasn't on the neck.
Would you... Okay. Did the knee, where the knee was placed...
Near the neck, but not on the neck.
Sure. Where it was placed, did it result in the cessation of oxygen, of required oxygen to his brain that resulted... So you disagree with the coroner?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So did you go to medical school? Where'd you get this information?
I went to common sense school.
Oh, so common sense says that a coroner would just lie and make up that compression on the neck.
No, the people around him lied and made it up.
But the coroner
himself
said it.
Let me do this because of time.
Okay, got you. We're
moving
moving
I don't want
past
to argue about that.
You're right. You're right.
Because time is going by really fast here.
You're right.
You said, it's been written here that you said you didn't want to pick up food because you would have to drive through wealthy neighborhoods, and you thought the cops were going to pull you over. You said if I could put on a white skin for 30 minutes while I go make food run, I would do it and I wouldn't feel nervous anymore. Did you
For
say
sure,
that?
for sure.
Why would you say something like that?
Well, I happen to live in a pretty nice neighborhood. It's like super duper predominantly white. It's
You say you live in a neighborhood like that?
Sure, it's on the rich side of town, and I think in the middle of all of the unrest, I would say the trauma caused by the George Floyd situation.
You were traumatized by that?
Absolutely.
How old are you?
I'm 37 now.
And you were traumatized by George Floyd thing?
For sure.
What?
Do you not? Well, I know you're not a psychologist, so yeah, I get it. I know you probably struggle with psychology, but sure. So I would say that, and it wasn't just that one in and of
Are
itself.
you grown or you a baby?
I think I'm a pretty grown man.
How you gonna be traumatized by something like that?
Do you think grown men can't be traumatized?
No.
Oh,
They
okay.
can if they're in a fallen state, but...
Oh, you have to be in a fallen state.
But go ahead, explain
Yeah,
why.
basically, so what it was is I live in a pretty rich neighborhood, and ultimately I recognized that, like, I saw the circumstances around not just George Floyd, but then the surrounding events as well, and all of the other people, Ahmaud Arbery, and so on and so forth, and the lack of accountability for cops gave me pause to consider the fact that if I am driving, at the time I was driving a much worse car than I am now, and I felt somewhat uncomfortable with the idea that, man, me in this car, in this neighborhood, will stick out like a sore thumb, and I could imagine police officers wanting to give me specific attention being a black man in this neighborhood in this car. And so that gave me a little bit of pause and made me feel somewhat a tinge of trepidation. Ultimately, I would go get the food, but I think that sort of thing, I'm a very risk-averse person.
Amazing.
And I would say
so
that
why don't
made
you
me
move out
nervous.
of your little rich white neighborhood?
Why should I?
But you're afraid of the whites.
No, I'm not afraid of the whites. What is it? I'm sorry. I don't know how you got that
You've
from
been
what I said.
traumatized.
Do you think that the trauma
So
would
how do
disappear
you
if I was in a black
travel around
neighborhood?
in your white neighborhood,
I drive in-
knowing that the cops may drive up behind you? What you doing over here, boss?
I've adjusted and I drive around with faith in God that I will be protected, and that's how I live my life.
Oh, amazing. And you say you have gone exclusively black dating now.
Absolutely.
No more white dating?
No.
Why only black?
Well, so I would say that I felt the need. I think it's important for me to make sure that I raise my children without this need for, without experiencing internalized racism. That's my goal. I think it's an important thing because that was a really painful thing that I went through, having experienced it. And so I feel like the easiest way to do that is to instill self-love from the very beginning. And I think a black woman would probably be more equipped in helping my child to inherit that black love and that self-love and to distance themselves from internalized racism.
So you want your child to have black love?
For sure.
But black love is dark and evil.
Whoa, I don't even know how to engage with that one, Jesse.
Do you think God's love is black?
I don't think God's love has a color.
But what is black love then?
Oh, black love is like the love of one, because we are black, like you and I. Although you might forget it sometimes, I would say that the love of ourselves. I would say black love,
But
like
black
as a
people
black
don't
man, to
have
love
love.
yourself. I think that a lot of times, what do you mean by that?
Black people don't have love.
There's no, Jesse, do you have love?
Not all, but most.
Okay. I don't know how to engage with that. I would say that black people have love, but I do think you're right that we are lacking some forms of self-love because of like the historic Jim Crow laws and some of the colorism and things like that have been instilled within black culture.
No, that's not why y'all lack love, man. The reason blacks don't have love is that they hate God.
Oh, but I love God.
No,
How do I not love God?
because you can't love God and Satan too, man.
I don't love Satan.
Let me ask you this. Do you love white people?
I love every people.
Do you love white people?
Sure, I love them too.
Do you love white people?
I love white people too, yes.
Do you love white people?
I just answered the question.
Do you love white people?
As much as I do everyone else, yes. So I love white
Do
people.
you love white people?
I love black people, so yes, I love white people too.
Do you love white people?
Yes. It's such a simple, reductive question, but sure, I take from it what you want.
But why do you just answer yes?
Because it's really reductive.
What do you mean?
Because, well, for example, I love all people.
But I didn't ask you about all people.
I know you didn't, but if I don't answer it in that way, someone can take away from it. If I don't follow it up or provide more context, they can take that, oh, you only love white people.
No, they're
right?
taking away that you don't love white because you got to add everybody else into it.
Ooh, I don't know if that's not how language works.
No, I asked you, do you love white people?
Sure.
Sure, I love everybody. Do you love white people? Sure, I love
So if the
white
answer is
people
sure,
too.
sure
Do you
means
love white
yes.
people? Sure, I love white people, but I love my dog too.
Why you do my voice so high like that, Jesse? Knock that off.
No. So, do you support Black Lives Matter?
No, the organization or the movement?
The movement.
Oh, I support the movement, but I think the movement is distinct from the organization.
And what's the difference between the movement and the organization?
Well, the organization is a specific select body that like have their own ideology, which seems like it's rooted in some forms of Marxism and other things like that, which I completely distance myself from. I think capitalism is the absolute best economic system on the planet. However, I think the movement, I think most people in the movement who would use the slogan and things like that, considering how decentralized the movement is, are completely disconnected from the organization as a whole. And I support what the movement is focused on, which is to make sure that Black lives are being valued in such that there would be justice for people who do wrong to Black lives. But the organization is on some other nonsense that I have nothing to do with.
But the so-called movement was started by a bunch of fat, black, radical, socialist, communist lesbians, right?
Okay. So,
lesbian.
Sure, but that might be the genetics fallacy.
Anti-God, they don't believe in God. How could the movement be right knowing that the founders were wrong?
Well, that could be the genetics fallacy. For example, in this case, maybe these individuals did that, right? But then again, if we start moving and doing something independent of that, then at that point, then I don't think it
That's
necessarily...
amazing.